Today I will be talking about LMIA exempt work permits, or Labor Market Impact Assessment exempt work permits. Did you know that not everybody needs an LMIA based work permit or even a work permit in order to work in Canada? Let's see if you would qualify for an LMIA exempt work permit. What is a work permit? A work permit is a document that authorizes a foreign national to be able to take up employment within Canada. There are two types of work permits: an employer-specific work permit and an open work permit. There are certain conditions applied to both of them. If not followed, could result in a revocation of this or of any, in fact, work permits in Canada. What is an LMIA exempt work permit and who qualifies for it? In general, all individuals who want to work in Canada who are not Canadian citizens or PR card holders must apply for a Labor Market Impact Assessment, and then after that they can apply for a work permit. However, there are certain individuals who do not need a work permit and automatically are exempt from an LMI as well. These individuals, or some of these individuals, are athletes, public speakers, medical students, performing artists, and the list goes on and on. The individuals or the category of people that I just mentioned right now, just because they do not require a work permit and an LMI application does not mean that there are not any conditions imposed upon them and imposed upon their arrival into Canada. They may or may not need a different type of permit to enter Canada, if not a work permit per se. Other than these individuals, there are certain people or countries that are LMIA exempt but still need to apply for a work permit. The Canadian government has signed bilateral agreements with and multilateral agreements with certain countries, which are in turn have made the movement of foreign nationals much easier from those specific regions, and has also made the movement of these foreign nationals LMIA exempt. This is conducted by the government to facilitate a broader economic and cultural gain for Canada itself. The LMIA exempt programs are called International Mobility Program, and they consist of bridging open work permit holders, NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement, so on and so forth. Please keep in mind that being LMIA exempt does not mean that you're also exempt from getting a work permit in Canada. You certainly do need a work permit, or at least some people do need work permits to come into Canada, and all the conditions that people who apply for work permits must meet. Everybody needs to meet that. And just because you are exempt from an LMIA, it does not mean that you have a higher chance at getting a work permit. You still have to go through all of the stages that a regular person who might not be exempt from an LMIA goes through, such as the regular application for a work permit itself. You may ask if there are any conditions imposed upon your work permit or upon your LMIA exempt work permit, and there are always conditions imposed upon any work permits in Canada, and some of them include the fact that you have to stay in the limits of Canadian law while you are in Canada. Depending on the type of work permit, you may only be allowed to work for that certain employer and not anybody else. The type of work conducted has limitations as well. The duration of the work permit has to be respected, and you have to respect the validity of the work permit and leave Canada promptly once the permit expires. What should you expect after getting your work permit? Getting a work permit is simply the start of an employer-employee relationship. There are a few rules and regulations that you must keep in mind and that you must follow as a temporary worker and also as the employer of a temporary worker in Canada. Always keep in mind, all workers in Canada are, first of all, equal and have the same rights as any other workers in Canada in front of the law, whether they're citizens, PR card holders, so on and so forth. Your responsibilities include, but are not limited to, compensating worker benefits, making sure the worker has all necessary documentation needed to be in Canada to begin with, complying with employment standards, human rights, Canadian labor laws, complying with conditions set out in the job offer itself. So whatever offer that you've made in the job offer when the foreign temporary worker was applying for a work permit, all of those have to be met. This is very important. You have to keep all documentation with yourself for at least the next 6 years after the foreign worker is in Canada, from the time when the permit is issued, because immigration may ask for it at any time. You may be subjected to random inspections by Immigration Canada to make sure that you are complying with all rules and regulations that are set out in the Canadian laws, Canadian immigration laws, and just any labor laws. Crimean Associates has assisted many clients with many different matters, from temporary work permits and other temporary documents to permanent applications. If you're looking to apply for a work permit, then you can contact Akrami Associates. With Akrami Associates, there's always a way.